your first startup is about skill, second startup is from market, third startup is passion. In my case, I was ulta.
Software is about efficiency and productivity. So it is valuable for markets where people have not have a GDP of $40,000 or more. You just go sell. Right? If machines are buying software, it doesn't matter whether you sit in Goa or whether you sit in Santa Monica. But we know today largely 99.9% mining is done by humans. So which essentially means they would like to see a human, meet the human.
I think it's very hard for someone to trust a company which is 10 people sitting thousands of kilometers away, and then the trust can only be bridged by a founder. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Matrix Moments podcast. I'm Pranay and I lead our enterprise software investments. I'm excited to do this topic with three phenomenal founders, but today we are going to talk about second innings. And all three people with me today are second-time entrepreneurs, again building enterprise SaaS companies. For all three of you, teams are in India, market is in the US, right? So if you had to think about how did you go about picking the idea, first version of the product in your first innings, and how are you doing it now? Any evolution in thought process, any differences?
Since you always started with us, this time probably.
Okay, I'll go first, right? See, my last gig I did was Zarget, which is in the marketing space, where we actually quickly went on to a good number of customers. We had almost 300 customers, very, very small customers, but churn was high because it was a use and throw software. Like people will do their website and then after 2 months they'll use it and they don't have a need for the next 2 years. So this I didn't foresee. Nobody could foresee at the time. I was very clear on one thing, like I want to build a product from India to the globe, but the model of selling from India should be easy. Lead gen should be easy. It should come into that model of inside sales where the CAC versus payback should be clear. And I went back to what I know. There is a Rajnikant dialogue, right? Like there is a dialogue, right? So I wanted to go back to things which I knew well. So I picked a vertical of IT, which is MSP space, which fits into that SMB inside the sales model, SMB market, less than 10K ACV. It has a established category. I can sell it from India. So pick that and did the reverse engineering of, okay, can another player, is there an opportunity? So I wanted to start in IT, then did a research and found out MSP as an opportunity, and we moved to the MSP market. We spoke to close to around 50 MSPs, did the initial conversations and everything. And thanks to Matrix helped us with all the conversations in the initial days. We spoke to SolarWinds, Enable founders and everybody, and decided, okay, this is a good space. So we have an opportunity to like scale and bring a predictable lead gen from India. Sell from India, you don't have to hire sales in the initial days. So that was an advantage. So I picked that that was the initial research.
Got it. So I guess obviously founder market fit. So you're talking about picking a market you understand, pick a GTM that you are very familiar with. And then within those controls started looking at, are there possibilities to build something there?
Correct.
Any other?
Many years ago, I ran into a founder from China. It looks like they've had so many serial entrepreneurs that he has a playbook. He says, your first startup is about skill, second startup is from market, third startup is passion. In my case, I was ulta. My first was like passion. No, I need to build some tech in India. And that's how it started. But I think finally the realization is tech, software, and then you call it whether enterprise or self or something. Is after a long time here, I've now come to there's only one market, which is the United States, North America. There's only one market, and picking a market for your startup is extremely critical. All things being equal in terms of your skill, your ability, fundraising, this, that, everything. There's one thing that beats everything else is the market. Not timing, it's luck, but it's just you pick the market because it is so fluid. People pay money for productivity, you pay money for new ideas, there's early adoption, there's late adoption, there's an entire spectrum of those things. So my first startup was purely passion, want to bring tech, want to bring high quality audio video to businesses here, felt that it was the right thing. The acquisition also pointed that it was the right thing. Market was just wrong. I was solving it for India. And the second time was pick the market, and then I iterated on what is the problem, and did almost 75 customer interviews across sales, operations, everything, and seemed like there's one problem there. You could build a skill, you could build some passion around it, you could build a talent pool around it, and there's a GTM that's there. But I think picking the market is very important.
And just double clicking on this, right? So I know sort of initially started in sales tech, right? But what were the thesis? What were the evolution? I know there was a SaaS visit somewhere in the middle. So how did you think about going to the US? Like, when did you go there?
Yes. So I think, did you want to answer?
No, I think we completed.
So I think once you pick the market, I think it'll be a very, very, very lazy answer, lazy approach if you're not in the market. If you decide I want to sell something luxury in Europe, or I want to sell something in London, or something for Middle East, and if you're not in the market day one, I think you're just being lazy.
First time founder will usually say, I don't have the money to stay for 2 months in the US.
I've now realized there's a workaround or solution for all of these things, right? If you're in Middle East today offers entrepreneurs wide open resources to be there, execute things. I still remember 2011, 12, 13, there was this thing called plug and play right in Bay Area. This was a Middle Eastern founder who sells carpets and did that. And you like, I will host you for 3 months, I'll pay you rent and everything. You just be here and solve your problems, right? So if you believe you have identified a problem and you have at least some sense of solution for that problem, the market is wide open for you to be there physically. Right? So that's the first thing is if you understand this is the market, then you've got to be there. Right?
So when did you go to the US?
We were like even before the formation of the company, we filed for a visa. Only when we went into the visa center consulate, that is when he asked the question, where's your invitation letter? We realized we are inviting ourselves to US. And we were pretty sure that guy is going to throw us out. And they put us into a different queue, and then we went into the spiel that this is founders, we have a software and we're going to change the world. And he gave us a visa. I have no idea how it went. But 2016, 2017, both me and Samir's visa had expired. We were in Chennai in the consulate. We had a letter where we invited ourselves to the US to build something in this, right? And then we went into SaaSter, we went into Salesforce, we went to a bunch of people. So we went after sales operations. The idea was, I think it's today it may be AI, ML. Earlier it was cloud. Before that it was just
any software. You were A/B testing ideas at
yes, I was just A/B testing ideas in SaaSter. We had a deck and we had 2-3 laptops. We had 3 people. We had a friend there who we put them, and all 3 laptops showed different versions of the product, different pitches, and we just testing out which one sells. We just started with that and we went ahead with that. So there is really a lot of opportunity if you're in the market, if you have a sense of the market, and if you're able to participate in the market. So be there day 0 if it's not even day 1, number 1. And second is, at least today, a lot of people have a sense of what the problem they're solving. But if you don't, there are plenty of opportunities to figure out what the problem is if you're there. I know there are folks here right now who have a tech solution around AI, ML, audio, video. Be there and you'll be surprised how much of business needs are there for these same solutions. There are connecting the dots that you won't be able to do it if you're not in the market. And that's largely what I realized is really worth doing that.
Yeah. I think really good points. So I was just thinking. So the last company, Vijay, we wanted to basically build something on the cloud, right? Because I have previously used cloud. I started AWS and used Azure. And in 2013, when we basically set up India, we said, okay, we can actually, So I basically, like, the previous experience I basically learned, if you're betting on a trend, C is their immediate value. C, potentially early signs of billable value, and whether that value is scalable. If so, you can build something around it. But I generally tell founders, don't worry too much about idea, right? Don't be super obsessed with your idea, because that idea won't be the same just like 2-3 months after starting and talking to like 20-30 prospects. The ideas will get refined and you are. But I always, so one of my engineers, he joined AtomicWork again. Akash always says this: software is for money-rich, time-poor people, and the other way to basically look at it is, software is about efficiency and productivity. So it is valuable for a market where the time is more than their money, right? Which essentially means, okay, which are the markets where people have per capita GDP of $40,000 or more? You just go sell, right? And now you can pick individual countries, go to Europe or whatever. The good thing about US is from East Coast to West Coast, one language. And of course, cultures differ. If you go from West Coast to East Coast, the nuances differ. But largely, one country, one language. Mostly, broadly, 80% or at least 70-80% of the culture is the same. So you can easily go sell, and it's a highly productive economy. So they value their time more than their money. So you can sell software, right? You can sell any software, right? Anything that improves their efficiency and productivity. Right? Now, when we are thinking about AtomicWork, we were basically saying, we applied a different framework. We didn't apply like the previous framework. We basically said, are we going to a good neighborhood? So a good neighborhood is basically a market where there are multiple big companies. They're making a ton of money, and because they're making a ton of money and they've been around for some time, there will be some customer dissatisfaction. Can we go and just serve those customer dissatisfaction? So the thing with good neighborhood is, that multiple people went there, built good houses, we call it product, they made money, and good neighborhoods generally attract more and more people to come. And so that was one thing. And second thing is, do we have a team that also has that long-term view, right? Now, the way to basically think about this long-term view is, whether people basic needs are taken care of, right? So that was one of the theses for putting together the team. And the last thing we basically thought is, okay, how do we apply technology or whatever? And as both of them said, Rishi and Arvind, when you go speak to customers, your ideas will get a lot more refined, right? So you start with a broad idea, but then you go talk to people. The only thing I'll basically tell is, when humans are buying software, don't believe it. If machines are buying software, it doesn't matter whether you sit in Goa or whether you sit in Santa Monica. But we know today largely 99.9% buying is done by humans. So which essentially means they would like to see a human, meet the human, and you also have to understand their culture, their context. So India is like a high context culture, and then we say US is like a very low context culture. In a low context culture, you can just go pitch, be direct, tell what you can do, what you cannot do. Things will move, right? US is like a very high context. India and South Korea, Japan, China. These are all like high context cultures, right? So if you try to apply this cultural aspect to your product building or selling there, it won't work. So I think it's important to understand. I think you have to be, if you're selling vegetables, be in a good neighborhood, right? Because people will come, they have money, they'll buy it. So if you're selling software, why would you do it differently, right? So go to US. And just one more thing. I was actually talking to one of the founder who said, very proudly said, we are in 30 countries. I said, where does 95% of your revenue come? He said 5 countries. I said, then why are you wasting your time in another 25 countries for 5% revenue? Because you are not even a market leader in any of these 5 countries, right? So don't get too obsessed with, whether you're at 1 million or 10 million or even 20 million about going to like 100 countries, because it will only get tax for you. And don't be too obsessed with the idea, focus. Very recently, actually, just like maybe 4 days ago, I learned this beautiful thing called how do you design your product, both using beliefs, your own beliefs and customer beliefs, and how do you use trends, your own thinking or prediction of a trend, and what competition is doing, and then the shifts in the market, right? So if you think for these quadrants, And just think about it, right? So of course you have to use your own beliefs, because you're starting, you have to bring something that has differentiation. You also have to add customer beliefs. Customer beliefs are nothing but their feedback, their experience and stuff. You need to look at what's happening in the market landscape. And you also have to look at what's happening broadly in the landscape, right? Like last 6 months, I got 2 slaps. The slap one was, GPT. The slap 2 is, this whole, autonomous, agents, right? I think these are like very critical changes. You should pay attention, at least try to understand, and say, is there a context for my product or my business? If so, how do I learn? How do I understand? And one of the reasons for me, immediately going for last 5 weeks, almost like 5 weeks to US, was I really wanted to go meet customers, prospects, but also I wanted to go meet people, who have built and seen technology trends for the last 40 years, not just last 10 years, 20 years, right? Because they have different perspective. And then I came back and I basically said, if we want to build, every software company will become AI, right? Just like every company will be mobile first company, cloud first company, whatever, right? Everybody will go on that path. But first we have to become AI first users. If you don't use AI, forget about building AI first company or AI native company, right? As individuals, we need to do this. So how do we enforce that within the team so we really appreciate the power of technology?
This is a whole different topic, which we should talk about.
No, I think, see, this was one of the thought process, which I think you will agree with this. Pretty much the pain point of the customer has been the same for generations, like for decades. Every decade, something changes. Either it was from moving from software to SaaS, and then now from SaaS to AI. I think the pain point is same. The solution which we are giving is in a different format. So I think that played a big, as you said, the trend. Watching out for the trend also makes a lot of sense in this in the market. I'll just share one thing which we did. We started exactly during the pandemic. Okay, so every office said you can work from home now, and IT was managing it in one company, and then I would have to manage somebody who's sitting in Detroit, has moved to Hawaii, and
they have 500 offices, not one office.
This was a challenge, right? So this MSP business was going like managing distributed workforce was an opportunity then. Now it's again it's changing into hybrid co-managed IT. There are a lot of things which is changing every 2 years. I think building solutions for this new age problems is something which we should always look out for and keep changing it all the time.
Yeah. So I think
it's the oldest problem. Apply,
apply new trend,
new technology, new experience, new.
I agree with that, but I think what we are also, when I'm looking at like what you've done, what Arvind has done, what Vijay has done, what the trend and all that is, it's also important that just ability to be around long enough is also very critical. Not saying that ChatGPT is not like perhaps a massive inflection point that has come for it. It has, but as long as you survive, you stick long enough, you continue to build trust in the market, you continue to solve solutions in the market, or problems in the market, and yeah, your product. I still remember this out of mind. I met those founders, one of the founders in the US, and what they did was a couple of pivots, not in the product, but larger in the market. But they survived, and in 3 years to 4 years, they had the widest and the deepest feature base in that market. And after that, the product just sold because some combo of feature was fitting in. Right? So in the end, software, as I said, is about trust. You're solving somebody's problem, productivity problem, and things like that. So as long as you're around there and you're solving people's problem, it's there. So it's very important to pay attention to the trends and other things, but burning out or just vanishing is not the solution problem. Right?
Okay, so I think it's a good segue into the next question I had, but what I'm hearing around the room is obviously immerse yourself in the market and learn their context, their culture, their pains. Right? Your construct of market is good neighborhoods, existing budget, large category, new trend line is disrupting, maybe a fat and lazy enterprise competitor who doesn't want to evolve because they have their profit pool, so they will not change. And you're going there and selling organic vegetables.
Yeah.
But I think to this point about just trust in the market, right? Maybe one question I wanted to ask is, how did you think about marketing, brand, GTM differently. And maybe again, we'll start with Arvind, who's our resident marketing guru. So Arvind, when did you start thinking about GTM and marketing, and how did you go about it this time?
I started from day one, man. Being a marketer myself, I think I have the strong belief of building product has become fairly easy nowadays because of the technology advancement. A lot of like things we can actually go to, like some two smart engineers sitting in a garage can actually build a product today. Like in Zoho back then, there was no AWS. We had to build the client, we have to build the data center, everything that was tougher. Today, building product is easy, but GTM, back then the keyword cost was $1, $1.5 for Google search. Today, a click is $300, right? And everybody are writing content now. ChatGPT content is overload. So building the GTM engine and getting the predictability and organic lead gen and the brand is becoming way tougher day by day. More and more companies are coming. It's crowded, standing out, and building a brand is tougher. So that's my personal thought. So I started day one. Like even before we were launching a product, writing code, started telling the story. We did more than 50 podcasts before even we showed the first prototype. Immersed ourselves with all the influencers, started talking about AI, educating them a little bit, created curiosity and things like that. So brand building, I think we kind of are, everybody in the MSP market knows us now. We took on the biggest competitor and we did a campaign, did all this regular things we used to do in Freshworks, and so build a brand. But to your answer, don't wait. It's building a brand is like building a product. It also requires time. Start from day one is my advice.
Yeah. So I think I agree with it. So I would also say build a brand in a market where it matters. So I'll give you an example, right? So when we built Ninja, I can tell you most people in Bangalore also didn't know. I mean, people started writing emails after we got acquired. See, man, we didn't even know that. Because it doesn't matter if everyone in Bangalore knows about my product because they're not my clients. Rather, I will have people in Bay Area know about us, right? There are like hundreds of companies, in US who knew about Ninja. They always thought they're a Japanese company because of the name and or have a Japanese connection. So I would also say three things, right? So as Arvind said, you take any two SaaS products, 70-80% features are common. There is no differentiation, right? Probably every product has like 1-2 killer separators. So how can you separate yourself? You have to build a brand. Again, I think about brand as three things. So there is a company brand that you need to build. There is a product solution brand you need to build, and there is a employer or ecosystem brand you need to build. So all three are important. If you really want to build a great company, you have to go build all these things. Just like you're doing product engineering, I would say do brand engineering. I would also say once you have a product, a lot of us underestimate a good, delightful support. How big competitive advantage it could be, right? That's the biggest lesson I learned from Nutanix. I often used to joke when I was running Ninja, I never woke up at 3 a.m. to do customer escalation call. But in Nutanix, there were like multiple times, where I woke up at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 1 a.m. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter whether you're a junior engineer or whether you're a VPGM. If there is an escalation engineering call, you just show up, acknowledge the problem, create a plan, support it. And there were like so many instances where customers said, I know you guys are like not as big as your competitor. Even though it's like a very big company, but it was doing $1.5 billion in revenue, 5,000-6,000 people company. Despite the customers actually told us, the thing that we really like about you is when you have a problem, you show up and help us fix it, and that it will be appreciated, right? I think brand, use it as a differentiator from day one. Use support as a differentiator from day one of your product. Don't think about setting up a delightful support, a delightful customer success, a delightful onboarding, implementation support, etc. As I'll do this once I get to 5 million, 3 million, 10 million, etc. I think you can just use these two things to create 40-50% differentiation in the market. Again, one other thing I have seen, people are building software for US. They sponsor conferences in Bangalore. I mean, it's useless. don't even attend, it's
Yeah.
what you're literally wasting, right? It's okay if nobody in Bangalore knows about your company. You should be delighted if everybody in Chicago knows about your company, because that's where MSPs are, right? Or you're selling into media people, everybody in New York know about you. That's better than, everybody in Chennai or Bangalore knowing about you, right? I think build a brand in a market where it really matters to you. And I think Arvind spoke about this. Startups don't have brand. Okay? From day one, you don't have brand, right? And you don't have trust. And it's very hard to get visibility. One of the greatest things, that we are lucky second time is you can bring people and, associate them with your, company, if not with product, by doing podcasts, by doing blogs with them, by doing knowledge sharing with them or thought leadership with them, where you can infuse their, brand, so that, people think. So the first person, we thought similarly, right? Should we do podcasts or not? We said, okay, let's do a podcast. So who should be the first guest on the podcast? Right? We said, okay, but how about bringing the guy who is today called as father of modern HR
and make it a one shot.
And really strive hard for it. We don't have a connection. We didn't go ask a VC, please introduce us. We cold emailed, reached out, begged, and now we basically said, okay, one HR leader is great. We need to bring one IT leader and one, business leader and, round robin. Because if you just talk about HR, that becomes very boring for your audience, right? You don't need to do I don't also believe in quantity of it. Just do 10 podcasts, one a month, but do a really high quality. You can't do one a month, do one a quarter. You can't do one a quarter, do one a half. You can't even one a half, at least do one damn meeting, right? You can find time for it. I completely agree. Focus on brand from day one. Focus on delightful customer support, not customer support, delightful customer support, delightful customer success from day one of your product, right?
I feel that for a first-time entrepreneur, especially in the tech, when you come from a product or a technology background, it's really, really hard to think of these ideas or concepts like marketing or brand. And there's also the personality. Many of us are very introvert, and to even address that becomes very hard. I think here's where I think a couple of things that really, really helps is focus on one thing, right? If it's market, and in the market US also, if there's enterprise or you're looking at PLG, just focus on one thing and just do the same things that you do. If the only jeans that you ever bought is Levi's, is because you care about that brand or you've heard of that brand, because there's familiarity, you've been around that, or there's a language of empathy. So just do that. And which is why I'm saying it's day zero being in the market matters, is because you run into the same people again and again, there's familiarity to it, right? You start building empathy because, hey, I know your problem. And you are now entering into if you're an enterprise, then you could do co-creation. If you're non-enterprise, then you're basically doing some kind of a value build for that. But I think the core thing for core vocabulary that really works for a first-time entrepreneur, especially coming from tech, is really focus. Is don't go, I will do PLG also, I do enterprise also, I do DIY also, I do services also. No, just pick one thing. And as you said, I will do Europe also, I do UK, I do China. No, again, pick one market, right? And just double down on that thing. It really is a hard decision to not do these things, but it is such less stressful, and you can go 10x deeper if you just focus on one thing. In our case, I still remember, and this was a learning in my life, of course, I made that mistake earlier, is you can even pick one region in the US and focus. If you think that East Coast is awesome, or Florida is awesome, or West Coast is awesome, or Texas is awesome, just go off that market also. Because North America is so deep and diverse.
One common thing I've also seen is everyone wants to set to Bay Area startups. Right? I want Stripe as a logo, I want Salesforce as a logo, right? But there's also
the rest of we discovered, and you'll see that one, that North America's largest medical conference, HIMSS, happens in Orlando, Florida, or Florida, right? It's the largest conference, and people are selling everything and anything there, from medical t-shirts to medical this to medical software to medical that. Any fact solutions are being sold there, right? So it's surprising if you focus how much answer starts coming out of it. And so I think it comes back to is be in the market and focus on a few things, and you start learning these basic principles of branding and stuff that folks in B2C and others just know in day one, right? Whereas you come from a product background and tech background, it's very, very hard to understand what's an SEO budget, what's an SEO budget, what's a PLG, what's an enterprise. Be in the market, spend time there, and just automatically comes in. I'll just add a very, 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 very interesting anecdote because I just repeated this at least 100 times in the last. We observed one of our, not competitors, but someone we were aspiring to that they did for mid-market sales, wine and dine every fortnight in the area. So they'll call sales ops or legal ops or something on a evening and they do it. So we went and copied that, and we hosted that in a nice area called Tide House in Bay Area, Mountain View. 5 years from now, we are now acquired by a company LegalZoom, which actually bought that real estate of Tide House and is our now office. And me and Samir went there and we sat there. Right? So it's just such a full circle. But I think the memories there are is wine and dine or just these very close circle sales or value co-creation happens if you're in the market. And it's extremely focused activity. And is that branding? Is that marketing? Maybe it is not, but it really works. And I think that's the point that I'm saying is day zero be in the market.
I think that's a great point. So one of the things a lot of startups say, I can't bring my customers together. Right? Let's say you can't bring your customers together, I can understand. So one of the things we did at Vijay was we were building on top of AWS. Reinvent was the biggest thing. A lot of customers attended. So we used to host this lunch on day 3 where there are no parties and nobody is hosting social mixer or like pub crawl, etc. And everybody is really looking for a good food, or a party, and it doesn't cost much, right? So a lot of people actually felt they're a big company because they're like, man, this actually hosts the CXO lunch, every year at Reinvent, and it started with like 10 people, went to 20, and I think our biggest one we probably had like 35 people, right, who actually showed up because it also brings intimacy, right? One of the things Karim says, what we tried, when they added field visits, like just one visit in a year, the retention improved by like 3 percentage points. That's huge, right? Just adding like that extra one face to face. And second thing, I think we touched upon it, Arvind said, I generally tell founders there is no US go-to-market as a startup. You pick one area, you pick Seattle, or you pick New York, or you pick Chicago, or you pick Midwest or Mideast or West Coast or East Coast. Go there. You don't need to run like your campaigns for entire US. You just pick that one area, really go after them and have your own approach to, right? Don't copy because everybody is cold calling. Everybody is doing 5,000 emails. During my customer discovery, one of the things people told me, Vijay, I stopped buying software from cold calling guys, from these robotic callers. Yeah. And what I did beautifully put it. We technologists are abusing technology for people, and people are now saying, I have a separate email which I use on my Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere. A separate phone number which I report. Because I get like hundreds and hundreds of emails. Yeah. I think founders, we should stop celebrating. I sent 5,000 emails, I got 5 people who responded, kind of a shit. I think as a company, you can take it like very differently, by creating value for your target segment and not frustrate them, bother them. Don't abuse people attention, etc. Because people also stop, buying, this whole robotic process, whether it's in marketing or it's in sales. The only thing I say is, I generally discourage founders for building for SMB, but I tell you need to learn SMB skills as a founder, sales, marketing skills, and business skills. Yeah. You really need to learn SMB skills, but the SMB is like for sales and marketing and business, but don't build for that segment. Right. Unless you are like very experienced founder, right? If you're a first time guy, it's very hard for you to go.
There are just these streets or this coffee hotspots. I'll pick up North Matildas anywhere, Redwood City, Mountain View, the King Street right outside SF. Easily 50 enterprise companies right there. Just go easily 50 companies right there. Just go put yourself for 6 hours in that one. Set up all your meetings. Your first year quota should be like them. Exactly.
No, but I'll add one thing. See, I'll agree and disagree for one thing. So agreeing is definitely picking one region and going deeper. Don't get distracted with multiple region, and it's diluting your investment also. I totally agree on picking one region. But as a marketer, there is one thing which I'll say: if you try 10 things, only 3 will work. 7 is going to fail. You have to understand that you have to identify the top which is going to work best for you. And this is the time where you can have a limited budget to spend in, okay, this is, I put this much money, how much am I getting ROI? And test the top 10 channels and pick the top 3. So I would recommend to try multiple channels, not just pick one thing, so that you will know where to double down when it works. So picking one region is good, but experiment your top channels with a limited budget would be my one advice.
And the last thing I would say is the first million, the founder has to.
Yeah.
Okay, stop this whole idea that I raise 3 million, I will hire a US.
Not hire a VP sales and
right. And the first million has to be founder led. And then it has to be founder managed. Before you bring even a director of sales or a VP sales kind of people, if you don't know how to sell, if you don't sell, you don't learn about product, you don't learn about competition, you don't learn about customer problem, you don't learn about buying behavior, buying cycles, buying process, friction in it. And any founder who says, I can't sell, I generally say, you don't take CEO job, give your other co-founder who can sell anything.
That totally.
And on this, I think what we've seen is the 0 to 1, the first sales playbook, only the founder can, right? You cannot outsource that to a salesperson or a sales leader. Once you have that playbook, a VP sales can come help you hire 5 smart people and train them on the playbook. So they can help you scale a sales org once you have the playbook. Absolutely.
Basically, you create the playbook on how to sell, and then the sales person you hire is going to make it repeated to the same thing. Same playbook can be repeated to multiple sales.
And the biggest mistake of the Indian SaaS founders right now, I made that mistake, undo that, and now hopefully sharing that lessons with others is building an SDR team or sales team is zero guarantees of any kind of success in all, is it? Just because you build a team of 10 engineering is shipping code, you build a team of 10 in content is shipping content, doesn't mean that you have 10 SDRs and sales happens. That is one part that is so counterintuitive and just doesn't work.
In most cases, outbound is dead, right? Like cold outbound, spam detectors get better, and like you said, right, people are getting smarter and ignoring the noise. So it's not cold outbound. You need some air cover from brand or something like that. The second thing is, I think sales is formulaic, so it's easy. So people will say, okay, I can hire reps because 5 reps, $1 million quota, 5 million I will add. But I think sales is scientific, but marketing is art, right? And if you can't create the pipeline to feed the reps, they are just closers, right? But if you can't feed them enough pipeline, they will not be able to close.
Absolutely.
So I mean, just go listen to Lenny's podcast, the best of the breed, current strategies, right? Don't apply like 10-year-old, 20-year-old how Zoho did their first 100 million, 500 million. It won't work for anything.
It doesn't work.
It won't even work the freshwater strategy. Just go look at the guy who made the 5 million last 2 years. Their strategy probably.
Yes, absolutely.
The only thing I would also say is, I mean, this was a learning for me. Even in Ninja, like after we crossed first $2 million and we hired a salesperson, I always felt when I used to go for a customer visit, we could close the deal. And only when this guy is going, they're not able to close the deal. And at one point I used to say, why can't you do it? The sales guy being sales guys, he gave his explanation. But then once I asked the customer, what customer told? He said, if a sales guy comes and makes a commitment, I'll probably give 5% weightage to that commitment. Because I know that the product teams, engineering teams don't listen to sales people. But if a founder or a CEO comes and makes a commitment, the entire company will rally towards that commitment and deliver on it, right? So
no, I think it goes back to the same point where you said first million founder led, then next
founder managed.
But I think it's very hard for someone to trust a company which is 10 people sitting thousands of kilometers away, and then the trust can only be bridged by a founder, right? So even after you hire a sales team, you just get on the closing call as an exec sponsor and say, I'm the CEO, I am here for you, this is my email ID and phone number. Right?
And also if you write the email, as a founder, please don't send your SDR or just a sales guy for a call. People get frustrated. So you should walk and acknowledge and.
I think just from this topic, one thing that I wanted to add on from my side is I'm again doubling down on that being in the market, living and breathing the air in the market is we also miss out what really matters in the market today. For example, in 2023, mid-market and enterprise sales, privacy, security, data management is like the number one item out of the gate. It's almost like, so you talk about your product, user experience, pricing, doesn't even reach to the person if you have not addressed these things. And you're sitting here, you're thinking of product experience, you're thinking of competition, you're thinking of trends, you're thinking of all these things. Whereas the companies are really solving is, hey, every day I'm getting this phishing attack, spam attacks, CCPA lawsuits, GDPR lawsuits, privacy, data. And there are these power centers created in the company right now, newly popping up, that is someone who has legal or this one is now has a say on the table in your buying decisions. And product is not the first one out there. So I think again, being in the market gives you that sense what matters right now in the sales and that.
Without compliance, you can't sell SaaS. 5 years ago, you could buy. 5 years ago, you could sell, but today you can't sell.
Even if it's SMB, I think they want compliance. Doesn't matter if it's enterprise or SMB anymore.
Cool. Anything else? Anything you think we should cover? I know we've gone quite long, but
I hope you will edit like a whole bunch.
of course, some sections out.
I have one item was
maybe like what's one advice from Rishi?
One advice to a first-time founder building SaaS may or may not be for the US.
I think this one advice is hard, but I think when it comes to hiring, it's important to sequence things because it costs money. It's an overhead in terms of culture management. It's an overhead in the time that you spend. Sequencing in the sense is, do you want to hire a product person first, or get a co-founder first, or an engineer first, or a product management, marketing? It's very, very important that sequencing, and that sequence is very much driven by what market you have.
We can do a chapter 2 and a chapter 3 because there's a lot more to unlock. But really appreciate you making a time, Arvind, Vijay, Rishi. Thank you for
Thank you everyone for listening to us.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Bye.